Well, welcome. This is my last slideshow. So I wanted to start by reminding you that we have class presentations. So you guys get to present. We'll be in groups of like probably 8-ish, and you'll be there for, that's what you've been signing up for. So you'll be there for the full 2 hours because, oh, reminder, you want to make sure you discuss in both your papers. You're doing, it's 88 points, and that includes half of it's your presentation and the paper. And both times you want to discuss the scientific studies. So you should have a slide on each one, or a solid paragraph, or maybe even 2 full pages discussing it. It needs to be in your words. So don't do something you don't understand. Make it fun. Have fun. I've had people do really fun presentations. You've seen me presenting, and so have fun. And hopefully you will have come this week and seen how the sharing of the screen works. So, all right, and part of your grade, it's 88 points. 8 points of it is that you are there, and you will be writing comments about your classmates. I will see them, and then I will feed them back to you as when I read your paper and give you your feedback and your overall grade. So part of it is being present and being a good audience. And so let's move on. Normally, we do this together, and we have a potluck. And this horrified me, this picture, when I put it up. But that is actually your 10th lab. Is normally you make something for the potluck and you share the recipe. So what you're going to do is you're going to take like one of these recipes. Oh, let's say you were somebody who loved the marshmallows and fruit cocktail, which is like pure sugar and fat. Well, you're going to give me that old recipe, and you're going to say, how can I make that recipe better? Or this one, how about this? And you know, is there a healthy way you could make Rice Krispie treats? Probably not. Or a macaroni salad. So give me your old recipe and how you're going to modify it. And yes, you'll take a picture of you and your new recipe. And yeah, these are not healthy. Maybe they're satisfying, but they're not healthy. And what's really funny is it comes from Yogi Mommy, right? Like, no, there's nothing healthy about these. Your recipes will need to be, this is one recipe. It does have to be animal product free, so vegan, oil free, sugar free. So no crap. Let's eat from Mother Nature. So let's see how you do. Maybe it's making your own salad dressing and making a beautiful salad. And that was when we had forks over knives. But take a recipe you know, or it could be recipe you did before, and let's make something beautiful. So it could be pico de gallo, right? Some kind of salsa, or a really awesome salad. That salad though looks like it's loaded with oil, so you guys can do better than that. These were just ideas because usually everybody's trying to decide what to bring. A really good chowder or curry. Yeah, or some kind of noodles. And could you make a pad thai that was actually healthy? So yeah, you can use nuts and things like that, but no processed oils, no processed sugar. You can use dates, you can use raisins. There's healthy ways you can do this. You can use fruits, sweet potatoes, right? All right, so that's lab 10. What about lab 9? Well, what if everything you've learned from me, from all of your teachers, but I'm going to say from me, has really been BS, meaning my belief system. Or actually, I'm a chemist, so it would be boron sulfur, right? Back to day 1 in Chem 104, when I remember, like, some of you have been with me the whole year. So Jamie, Dominique, Miranda, Isaac's going to still be with me through the summer, right? Some of you have been with me for 2 terms. Christina and Elizabeth, you've been with me the whole year. And Joey sleeping here next to me, who made me go take a shower before I did this, because he actually gets to smell me. The rest of you can't. So I smell beautiful now, as always. So what's your belief system? So let's walk through why I say, what if everything I've taught you this year is just belief systems. So myth number one, I get to start with the chemistry myth. Only matter matters. So reality is located in this tangible structure of matter. Matter is something you can measure, you can quantify, you can analyze. This is what science is. And it's from Aristotle. He was really an empirical materialist. He said matter is fixed and unchanging and therefore real. He only saw black and white. It's this way or that way. And then Descartes ushered in the scientific revolution about 400 to 500 years ago. He introduced the analytical reductive reasoning. Yes, he is behind Cartesian coordinates, your XY coordinates that you're also fond of. He was really into this idea that you got to be able to measure it. And this is a quote, partial of a quote from him. All science is certain, evident knowledge, and we reject all knowledge which is merely probable. And the whole quote is fascinating when you realize what went on for the past couple months. And so, yeah, he was very much created our dualistic way of looking at things, true or false, X or Y, right? So, and he also believed in the mechanistic universe, that everything was a machine, that our human body also was like this clock. That clock is called Newtonian clock, and that our body could be explained like a machine. The world can be understood through the knowledge of its physical parts. And hey, if that's your belief system, that's awesome. So the mechanistic universe, Sir Isaac Newton took off on that, and he wrote us all the wonderful laws. So that's called the Newtonian clock. And yeah, this picture to me is scary. There's tons of them on there, but this is it. That our body, and think about how our healthcare system is we see ourselves as a machine that's broken and needs to be fixed. Is it really? And so Sir Isaac Newton was all about this math and explaining the universe with math. So he came up with the laws of nature, of the material world could be explained, and the beginning of materialism. And I'm still not happy. People just keep buying and buying, even though a lot of stores are closed. People are buying and buying. The second myth is determinism. Also, thank you, Sir Isaac Newton. This is a Rube Goldberg machine. This is one of my favorite because it has dogs in it. But it's cause and effect. So if something happens, a cause made an effect. So for every action, this is Sir Isaac Newton's third law, he got to write laws, produces a reaction. So we can predict and control the outcome of nature. Right, it's good for you. We also, the dualistic way previously also separated us from nature. We suddenly became separate from nature. And this is only a couple hundred years ago. The scientific revolution moved humans away from nature. That's one of the things in Taoism. Taoism was very much, you are part of nature, rather than trying to control it. And when you think about how our pills are now, that we can give you a pill for that. This is the cause, this is the effect, this pill will fix it. Or DNA, the idea of genes, that your genes cause an effect. And then myth number 3 is reductionism. And yeah, that first picture was straight from Wikipedia. You can Google what reductionism is if that's what you want to write about in your last little thing to me. And this is another picture, which is fascinating because Chinese medicine, was not about that. And this is an article, so from the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the premier journals of medicine in our country, and looking at reductionism in medicine. So we go back to the 18th century and a person's sick, and we see him as a whole person who's sick. And then we go into, we just keep reducing to the molecular level. And then we're trying to reassemble and get back to the whole person. Oh, but wait, no, we got a pill for that. the placebo effect. Pretty sure you've all heard of it. There's some interesting things on this slide that I took from Find Me Cure. But in case you've never realized, the placebo is huge. 48% of doctors, that's almost half, prescribe placebos 10 times a year. This is the biggest one. Antidepressants over here in the top right, over 50% are placebo. In fact, there is, I think I talked about with this class, there's the file cabinet studies, and it is something over 75% of studies with antidepressants. It's the highest number. It might even be higher than that, are actually in the file cabinet, and that's the only way they can show the mild effect of them. And they actually have these studies where you don't know if you're on the placebo, your doctor doesn't know which pill you're on. And people will actually have the side effects. And 2 years later, they get to open the envelope and find out if they were on the placebo or not. And they won't believe their doctor. They're like, no, I was on the real medication because I had all the side effects. How could that be? And down here, oh, cough medicine. 85% is due to the placebo. So it was 15 years ago that they pulled cough medicines off the shelf for kids and parents because they had shown without a doubt they had no effect. And parents flew through such a fit, they were back on the shelf within a week. The one that's more fascinating to me, because I had heard about it a long time ago and just didn't know the word for it, and it's called the nocebo down here. And so the nocebo is when somebody tells you, so it comes from, it was in the 70s, and a man had cancer, they did something, surgery, and then he wasn't feeling good. He went back to the doctor, and doctor said, oh, your cancer's returned. You have 2 months to live. And the gentleman died within 2 weeks, and they did an autopsy. And guess what? He had no cancer, nowhere in his body. And that doctor took a step back and said, oh my goodness, my words killed this patient. So my Qigong teacher from China had breast cancer. She had stage 4 breast cancer in China. This is back in the 80s. And so she's like 90 something now. And so in China, they don't tell you when you're terminal, or back then they did, because they knew you can put thoughts in people, and everybody would bring her presents because for the next life, the afterlife, whatever. And she didn't know why everybody was being so nice to her. And she was in to get her chemo, and her hair had come out, and she was so sick. And there was this gentleman sitting next to her, and she just looked at him and said, what are you doing here? You're not sick. This is a place for sick people. And he was just beaming happiness. And he took her hand and he said, come with me. And he took her to the park, and his master became her master and taught her Qigong. And then she came to this country. He sent her here because her English was beautiful, because she'd been an English teacher in China. And she was teaching at the acupuncture college here in Oregon for many, many years. Amazing teacher. And yeah, so I came up with a term at the beginning of this spring term, and I called it the fiercebo because of what was going on. But the nocebo, you can Google it and look into it, and it is really fascinating. So you can write a page about that if that's what you want to learn more about. So this is placebo, which is depression, migraines, apparently. I don't know, I've never had migraine. Knee pain, apparently they've done surgeries, and they don't actually, it was a study, it's been done many times now. And so they actually do the incision, but don't do the surgery. And just as many people who don't have the surgery recover from the knee surgery, because they believe they had the surgery. So just putting it out there. It's up to you if you want to believe it. Placebo contraception doesn't always work so well, so just be careful there. This is a book, again, I cannot recommend him enough. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, there was one of you who enjoyed his, the meditation that I posted. And I posted those because I'm hoping out of my 50-some students that one student will enjoy each one of those meditations. And so I just put 5 of them up there. And there was somebody who finally actually adored Dr. Joe and is still listening to him through the end of the term. I have not read this, but it's a really good book, even though I haven't had the opportunity to read it. I actually have the meditation from the book that I listened to today. All right, the lock and key model. I talked to you about this. Remember with enzymes, it's also how neurotransmitters and hormones work, right? They bind to their receptor and something happens. It's a lock and key. It's our mechanical chemical signal. It's really what second midterm was all about. And it's fast. A synapse, 0.5 meters per second. You know, meter is a yardstick. So you multiply that out to a minute, 60 meters, right? Well, I guess that's not that well. Yeah, but neurons. It's a little clumsy here at the chemical level in the synapse, right? 60 or 30 meters in a minute. I could even run 30 yards in a minute. That's not even a touchdown. But this is when it's going along the neuron. It is an electrical signal moving at 268 miles per hour. Wow, that's awesome. It's not fast enough. There's also another problem. Electrical signals produce heat, and neurons don't produce heat. So there's a huge flaw in what you've learned with this. So people have taken stuff from physics because they want to be super smart like physicists, but they leave out important pieces. All right, you know, your dog is like saying, remember the dog bringing you your keys? And how many of you use keys, lock and keys? Oh, most of us have that little button we push and our car starts for us. That electromagnetic signal. So if you remember the microtubules I talked about, they talk about them now that they think they're little antennas in every cell, and our myofascia is how electromagnetic signals get sent. Inflammation severely affects the myofascia. So for John, this is huge. This is what you in massage therapy work on. So yeah, 3 times 10 to the 8th meters per second, the speed of light, roughly, which is not actually fixed. The distance from here to the moon in a second. Yeah, and again, it's what we're moving to in our society. We mimic what's already inside of us. Oh, and then this myth. It's all in your genes. This picture is a molecular robot replacing a defective gene, if you actually believe in defective genes. So is it materialism? Is it determinism? Is it reductionism? Oh yes, Joey's saying it's all 3. And then there's books like this, that your DNA, is your DNA your karma? Has it determined? It's in my genes. There's nothing I can do about it. You all know you've said this, or you know somebody who says this. Oh, my mom has this. My grandma has migraines. My mom has migraines. I'm going to have migraines my whole life. And you will, because it's your belief system. So this is not my quote. It's not your karma. It's the driver, which is you. You are the conductor of your genetic symphony. So you can determine. And my DNA is, it's flowers and stuff. That's me. I had to cut down this picture today again, yet again. But I'll be there teaching the kids in the fall. So all of you have kids, I'm going to be there. If I can't be there for the adults. We'll do it. We'll do it over Zoom. I'll give the kids weekly challenges, and I'd love to see all of you there. All right, so we've talked about this, right? We have the stress response. So something happens, and we are the only creature on this planet that has the ability to have this response happen by emotions alone. That it's not an actual stress, that Joey didn't jump out at me with a knife or something. Joey can just say something and start this going. You all know you have triggers. And I had one today, and I just had to go on a bike ride to get me out of this. But it starts, your brain releases, you get to learn all of these things that happen. And yes, adrenaline and cortisol then goes and binds your DNA. And The problem is, I'm not saying there's not a chemical response. That's the problem, is once you trigger the chemical response. So we create the matter that's in us. This is me when Joey and I drove across the country, and I'm choosing the healing response. This is me today because I had an emotional breakdown. Took this long the term, right? This is the book where I got, I highly recommend. Dr. Bruce Lipton is amazing. I never actually read the full book. I have trouble reading full books. I always have to start. I don't read from beginning to end. And so I start in the middle, and I would just like yell to Joey, and I'd have to read pages to him and stuff. And so, and then I loaned the book at the final exam in winter term to a friend. And so I'm hoping he's reading it and enjoying it, but that you have this choice. And something, in case you've never heard, butterflies, actually, I'm sorry, the caterpillar, when they enter the cocoon and come out as a butterfly, there is nothing the same. Nothing. Like every single part of it is gone. None of the organs are the same. Nothing. I can't remember the name of the effect, but you can look into it. It's actually really cool. If somebody knows and can send me an article, I would love it, because then I could put it in. And so, yeah, again, and that's me. Again, I also have all these pictures of me because I can't have pictures of other people because of this format. But that was me in the Redwoods, one of my most favorite places. And you can do a lot of fun stuff with light. I don't know why I was holding my hand up, and it wasn't until later when I looked at the picture that Rowdy had taken that I was like, who am I talking to there? I sent that picture to many people who all have their response. I really want you guys, when you do your slideshow, include a picture of yourself in there or your loved ones, and have fun. Really, make it personal. All right, we've talked about this. Can't emphasize it enough. Eat your legumes. Eat your fruit every day. All right. So is it our mind controlling our gut or our gut controlling our mind? Huge connection we've talked about. You all know what you eat affects your emotions. And then there is the heart-mind connection. So there is a place, Stanford, called the Heart Math Institute. Highly recommend them. Some really cool stuff. So they're the hard part, though, is they're trying to scientifically document all this stuff. So anyways, so they did this experiment. So they did an EEG, which is when they hook up the electrodes to the brain. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but they now can hook the electrodes not up to your brain, but several inches from your brain, and they get the exact same measurements. So it doesn't actually have to be on you for them to do a brain scan. Because it's out there in the matrix that's all around us. All right, and an EKG is for the heart. So the K is cardio in German. And so they had a monitor on that, and they also put skin sensors on the people. And then they had the people stare at a blank computer screen, and they would then put an image on the screen. Every few seconds, an image would appear, and they would read the sensors. So the sensors, they get feedback, right? On the computers analyzing all this. So the pictures were one of two things. They were either emotionally arousing, an autopsy, sex, violence, or they were calming pictures. So they were pictures of nature. They were pictures of people smiling. So there's little Joey. And yeah, so the pleasure, you don't get to see my face right now, but I'm remembering last term and the other terms when I do this talk, that whenever these pictures show up, everybody in the class, you can feel this calming effect happen. I chose not to show you the emotionally arousing. And so the question is, what was the first responder? The brain or the heart? And the winner, of course, is the heart, because we are heart-centered. This is the craziest part. Before there was any brain activity at all, the heart responded appropriately, but it gets better. It gets even better than that. Before the brain had a chance to have a response saying, oh, wow, that's a calming, beautiful picture, right, which was instantaneous, the heart responded. Both the heart and the brain responded before there was even an image on the screen. In fact, they responded before the random image generator inside the computer had generated an image at all. So there was a response by your heart and then your brain, and then the computer put the picture up there. Fascinating. So, who's in control, right? The body responded appropriately also. So remember those skin sensors? So they did respond then after the computer made a choice and it showed up. Something to think about. So we are heart-centered. And then if you've never heard of this, this could be what you look into, heart-mind coherence. So the word coherence is beautiful. And this is a beautiful picture from, I'm pretty sure it's from Heart Math Institute. So this is incoherence over here in the red on the left. And you can see, you don't even have to really know what the word means to say, oh, that's not good. That's like not a good signal. And over here, it's this nice, smooth signal. Green is the color of the heart chakra. I didn't get to make those colors, but there's also pink is the other color. It's the only chakra that has two colors. But the greater the mind-heart coherence means you have more heartbeat variability. That is a good thing. The more heartbeat variability you have, so that not every heartbeat is identical, means you are more adaptable. So like what just happened in the past 3 months. People who have coherence over here in the green, they are coherent communication between the heart and the mind. Their heartbeat has some variability which allows them to adapt. It means their heart opens more easily. So you need to be a new normal, right? That's what that slide, that quote there was long before 3 months ago. I made this a year ago, which is fascinating. So this is heart rate variability. So it shows you that. And when you're in appreciation, you can see it's smooth, it's coherent, but there is variability. And this is when you are frustrated on top. And there is always beat-to-beat variability. They measure the R waves, again, because we are still stuck in the Cartesian way that we have to measure everything. And so when you look at the millisecond, each beat is slightly different, and this allows you to change. And the thing that's interesting is when they look at the people, and you all have people like this in your life that are set in their ways, especially as they get older. Some of you, when you're young, are set in your ways too. People who are set in their ways do not have the variability. So their heart is set, and you also feel like those people who are set in their ways, they can't open their heart when things happen. This is from them, so I'm going to start at the top upper left. The human heart's magnetic field can be measured several feet away. Negative emotions create nervous system chaos, but positive emotions do the opposite. We all know that. Positive emotions can increase the brain's ability to make good decisions. I'm down the bottom right. You can boost your immune system by focusing on positive emotions. Yeah, immune system. Why isn't this out there? Focusing on positive, and not just on you. It's you sending gratitude to others. It's not about your immune system. That's what this whole 3 months has been about. It's about everybody's immune system, that we are all need to be in coherence with each other. And they have been doing studies, and they find when people meditate. So this weekend, June 8th, I'm supposed to be on a silent retreat. And they actually do studies where they measure people before the retreat and at the end. And there's no coherence between the people before. But at the end, everybody's in coherence with each other. The whole place, everybody is. All right, positive emotions cause our physical, fetal development. The heart forms and starts beating before the brain even begins to develop. The heart is the first organ. It's all you are actually initially as a fetus, is your heart. We are heart-centered beings. This is cool. They are actually finding new things in us. And this is actually in 1991, this was a discovery. They're called sensory neurites. They have now found them. They're specialized neurons found in tissues that are not part of the nervous system. They have found them everywhere in our body. They are finding, last year, I know there were 2 new organs that were found. They're small, but they're finding new things. It's almost like we're evolving. And right, I talked about this with the neuropeptides. We have new neuropeptides that they're always finding. The heart has the most sensory neurites, 40,000. And so they call it the little brain in the heart. And they've likened it to the ability of our heart to learn and remember. If you've ever heard about the heart transplants, the people who receive the heart, they suddenly have new food cravings. They sometimes will have memories from the person whose heart they now have. There's some fascinating books that have come out about that now, the Lab heart. And then heart intelligence is fast because the heart has no ego, no frustration, no self-worth. The heart is just love. So unlike our brain, which does have an ego, it can be frustrated, it can be anxious. Your heart only knows love. And that is why when you're feeling anxious, place your hand on your heart and breathe into your heart and just feel gratitude. So it's our hotline to our intuition, our connections to others. And any of you who are parents, you know, especially moms, something's up with your kid. You know it before anything even they start crying. You can feel it. And you feel it in your heart. There's another Joey picture. So yeah, the intuitive heart. So I thought it was on that slide. There are more neurons in our body between the heart and the brain than any other place, any other connections. And it's something, I'm going to say 95%. It's a really crazy, huge number. Is actually connections from the heart to the brain. It's only like 5% is connections of the brain sending messages to the heart. Almost all the connection is the heart sending the messages to the brain. Something to look into or think about. So are we just molecular chemical factories limited to cause and effect chemical interactions? That was not my biochem book. I don't know why I didn't show mine. Right? So this would be why pills and antibiotics and all that. Or are we something much more? And that's the whole idea of quantum. Quantum mechanics is probably the most real thing. That's another picture of me, just because it fit the color scheme. So doing that position I thought was impossible. I thought it was photoshopped when I first saw it in a yoga magazine. And then my teacher, this is like 10 years ago, was trying to get everybody to do it. And I just kept falling on my nose. And I came home and Pima did it in 1 second. You know, it might have been like 15 years ago because Joey was really little. And yeah, it took me a long time to realize it's really simple. All right. So matter, you guys learned this, chemistry 104, electrons moving around, the nucleus. Oh, and if you were in my class, you may or may not remember me writing the 99.9999999. They keep adding more nines. There's 19 nines now. Emptiness. So matter is only making up 0.000000000000001%. Right? If the SUV, if you have your car was the nucleus, the electron would be like a mile away and would be the size of a chickpea or a pea in a pod. And so the quantum atom, there is stuff going on in that emptiness. There is no emptiness. The emptiness is filled potential. It is where your beliefs come from. It is intention. And right, there's pulsating waves going on. And that is what creates our material world. And so the probability of finding an electron within a certain volume of space, blah, 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 you learned all that. The quantum mechanical model, which is materialistic. That's why I said, can a chemist let go of materialism? And we can't. There's also something known as quantum entanglement. And I believe this is a picture from the Hubble Space Telescope. There's also the Chandra, which is Greek mythology, but that telescope, Hubble shows everything as separate stars, separate galaxies. And the Chandra telescope, which I thought I had a picture, oh, it shows that all these stars are connected, kind of like our brain and everything is connected in us. So are you comfortable with being discrete particles to explain your existence, that you are made up of pixels? So we can get finer and finer and finer and keep looking at our hand until we get down to each individual atom, which is a pixel, and even go more than that. So we did ion channels and hormones binding receptors. We talked about diet and drugs. How comfortable, right? Most students, that's why I start the term. That's what we want to do. Okay, I can talk about diet. I can change my diet. But how comfortable were you with that meditation lab? I know a lot of you were not. It's really hard. The intangible waves, string theory, because when they keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into matter, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. There are vibrations, electromagnetic signaling, consciousness, energy healing is real, and miracles. There we go. There's a picture from Chandra. And it shows that there is a connection between all the stars and between all the galaxies. So this was a quote: "What if consciousness is central to transforming the unconstructed quantum world of possibility into something that resembles everyday reality? Reality is not fixed, but fluid, and hence open to influence, to your thoughts." This is why I put that line, cation affirmation. And I had a student last year who got into the dental hygiene program, and he wrote his cation affirmation. I've never had anybody do it. And then I told the class, and other people started doing it. But I watched him for a couple, like more than until the, I guess in the second term was when I finally told the class. He never wrote it about himself. He always wrote about the class. He said, we have all got this. And so everybody else was writing. Some people write silly stuff like, my hair looks great today, or I'm going to ace this class. I'm going to get an A, I hope. Don't put that. Anyway, Lynn McTaggart did this thing called The Power of 8. And I had a student who was having a really bad couple weeks, and you could tell he came to class, he'd sit in the back instead of the front, had his baseball cap down over his eyes, wouldn't make eye contact with me, where he'd been this really stuff, always involved in things. And he was in a different class than the one before, and we'd all gotten to know each other. And so I told the class, I said, hey, he's having this bad go at it. When you guys are driving home tonight, just think about him and send him love and gratitude and good vibes. Well, I'll tell you what, the next day he came to class and he was normal. Who knows? Maybe he had nothing to do with us, but I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, Lynn McTaggart is another one that's interesting. So she's the power of 8 is you have a group of 8 people. And so she'll have these huge workshops, say with 800, and she breaks everybody into groups of 8. They don't know each other. And you each tell your story, and who you decide who you're going to work on. And so everybody just focuses on that one person. And they always get better. And they feel better. But this is the catch. The other people all feel better too, because they weren't focusing on themselves. They wake up the next day and problems they'd had for decades are gone. All right, super learning. The heart anticipates events before it happens. So beta is the top one, is when we're awake. That's normal. And alpha is when you're feeling drowsy. Delta is deep sleep. And theta, that is where you go, like the monks when they're in deep meditation, all types of monks, or all of us when we get into that deep REM sleep. And then there's gamma. And gamma actually triggers 1,300 biochemical reactions, including ones that affect our immune system, our emotions, and our heart health. Try meditation and try it sincerely. There is nothing wrong with listening to a guided meditation. Jamie can tell you her story, where initially she listened to a guided meditation, and now She doesn't need to. She probably has days where she does. I have days where I can only sit for 3 minutes. And I have other days where it's been an hour and I didn't even know. And it's a cat who will eventually say, okay, we need to move now. Yeah, so are you just your DNA code? Or is your DNA more than that? Can you actually change your DNA with meditation, with courage, strength, compassion, and love? Good vibes we talked about. Vibes are stronger and faster. That's an actual protein. Proteins are all about vibrations, right? You can have constructive, destructive. You can do your Tai Chi, which is love. That is actually what it is. The wrong signal is disease, which can be trauma, all types of trauma, toxins, all types of toxins will change this pattern, will change your proteins. So even if they're there and they're not vibrating correctly, and your thoughts and your emotions. So have fun. Giggle until you jiggle and wiggle. And that's me doing my Tai Chi with the Ninja Turtles in South Dakota. All right. And don't forget about the gratitude. And that when you're doing the dishes, smiling and saying grace. And saying grace holding hands. That picture was in there before 3 months ago. Actually, I put it in right before this all started, which is the irony of it all, huh? But there is a power to that. If you've never heard of Dr. Emoto, Japanese doctor who did studies with water crystals, and they could say the word love in any language or just tape it on there, and they would get these beautiful crystals. And if they played like crazy heavy metal music, the crystals wouldn't form. They could take the dirtiest crystals and do chanting over it, and they'd get beautiful crystals. So gratitude is not an attitude. Gratitude is something that flows out of you when you're overwhelmed by what has been given to you. Sadhguru is this, he had been a businessman, and then he had a moment. And now he's Sadhguru, and he will give talks to 1 million people. Seriously. Not now online. Yeah, of course online it's much more than that. But it will be in India. He's from India. And you will just see people miles and miles coming to see him talk. And this is a picture, because when I do my meditations, I found the birds come and watch me. And so that's what I was thinking about. Quote from the Dalai Lama: if you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And like I mentioned, he said the 3 most important things: compassion, kindness, and a sense of humor. Absolutely certain I've seen him giggle until he wiggles. His laugh is great, and he always jiggles and wiggles when he's giggling. And he giggles a lot. So if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. And then Jesus, the greatest healer of all times. So I ask again, are you comfortable with the discrete particles to explain your existence? Sure. Ion channels, hormones, binding receptors, pH gradients, generating ATPs. Yeah, we figured it all out. Again, from diets and drugs. We're all comfortable. You guys have a test on that. How comfortable are you with intangible waves, quantum entanglement, string theory, and infinite potential? Electromagnetic signaling, consciousness, energy healing, and miracles. So junk food is the top one there for lowering your vibes. And gratitude, kindness, love, joy, passion at the top of the list for raising your vibes. Yeah, you have a choice. That's what the human experience is. As the flower, oh shoot, the flowers, I don't remember. So that necklace that I've been wearing the whole year, those who've been with me, that's the pattern in it. That can explain all geometry. It's the flower of life. Anyway, we've talked about vibrations and sound, the chakras, acupuncture, and of course, you are more than just a food. Your food has vibrations. Smile. Smile when you cook. Be playful, whatever it is you're doing. So whether it's yoga or building marshmallow geometry or being stuck in a camp tent that only holds 2 people with 3 of us in there for 3 days in the monsoon because we couldn't move. That was Joey. He just lost it. And we just all laughed. So don't do this in the morning. Don't be this person at night. You got to look at your Facebook. The first thing you do in the morning, wake up with gratitude instead. Not listening to somebody. Just wake up and place your hands on your heart and take some deep breaths and be grateful. Especially if you have puppies. My puppy that I get to sleep with. And do more of what makes you happy. So, yeah, give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay. So, you know, when people, oh, here you go. Did you know the Earth's magnetic resonance vibrate at the same frequency as our heart rhythms and our brain waves? So that's what this picture's from. This is from the Heart Math Institute. And it is showing the electromagnetic field that's given out by us. It's exactly the same as the planet. And remember, you always have a choice.